Thank you very much and welcome to our class, Understanding Ethics from a Christian Perspective. Like we already aware, this is Uganda Christian University, and like you have already been told in the course outline, this course unit, Understanding Ethics from a Christian Perspective, is one of the foundation courses of Uganda Christian University that gives Uganda Christian University a sense of identity, and it makes Uganda Christian University quite different from another university. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you as a student. So I am aware that you have come from different backgrounds and you have an idea of what education is. So we'll not go into that. But first, let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you so much for your goodness and mercy, for giving us yet another opportunity to see the gift of a new day. Thank you for bringing us this far. And I pray with my brothers and sisters who are listening to me and willing to learn from one another, give us energy and wisdom to continue conceptualizing and reflecting on the things that you have given us to do. In Jesus' name. Amen. So, dear friends, welcome to this class. This is Diploma program, and the course unit we're undertaking is Understanding Ethics from a Christian Perspective. Like I said, this course is one of the foundation courses at Uganda Christian University. My name is Alfred Wunyaka. I'm a clergyman from the Anglican Church, and my email address is alfredwunyaka@yahoo.com. My telephone number, which is also on WhatsApp, is as indicated on the screen. For those who are listening on radio, 0779 32 4405. So that line is open to you for you to use in regard to this course. And then the question is welcome. So if we are to go back to the introduction of the content, introduction to ethics from a Christian perspective, within this we will have the introduction, the course description, the objectives, and why this course, particularly why ethics. So this course introduces you to the basic concepts of ethics with a particular emphasis on a Christian perspective. Like I said earlier, we have different theories on ethics, but our main focus here is to look at ethics from a Christian perspective. At the end of the day, much as we will look at different perspectives on ethics, but going back at the end of the day, we will zero it from a Christian perspective. Because at the end, our primary intention is to make Christ known and the power of his resurrection. So when we are reasoning, we need to put a distinction between us and people who have come from different backgrounds, and of course, forming and informing Christ to those who do not know him. The second thing is that this course gives you an opportunity to apply ethical principles in various challenging times of the day. The opportunity is you as an individual, first, to show that you are distinct from another, and also to give you an appreciation of who you are and what you can be and how you can be helpful to the community. It introduces you and me to ethical systems of thinking, values, morals in society. Of course, as we go on, we will interact much more on what ethical morality, those terms will keep coming over and over. What a value is, what a society is. We will talk about those. And at this stage, we're introducing you to values, morals, and we will see that at a later stage. So this is intended to give you that perception. Now, this course has 12 chapters and it will be run in 12 weeks. So each time we are here, we will be interacting with a chapter or two, depending on how much time we have, and that will give us an opportunity to reflect much more, not just on the content, but the applicability of this content to us. So, chapter one deals with the introduction, introducing ethics and ethical systems. Particularly, we are going to deal with what ethics is, then look at the different perspectives for example, the African tradition concept of ethics and the Ubuntu philosophy, which is also entirely part of the African traditional society and ethics. Looking at the biblical foundations of ethics, of course, biblical foundations of ethics, we look at Old Testament and New Testament. And like you could remember in your first year, you did Old Testament and the New Testament. So here it's compounded into one, and it helps us to appreciate how the Bible guides us in everyday life. Then we also look at applied ethics when we are looking at things like classical ethics, Western ethics, and how the Westerners look at ethics. Of course, this ethics is not limited to us as individuals, but also to all other societies and how they look at ethics. Then we look at modernity and postmodernity. Of course, we will describe, and at the end of the day, we will appreciate what a modern and a postmodern world is. Many people are asking, which age are we? Some are saying postmodern, others are saying a digital age, but at the end of the day, we will find ourselves. Then part two will deal with applied ethics. And applied ethics, we more or less practical ethics, everyday ethics, church and society, professional ethics. Of course, each one of us has a profession, and this profession uh, helps us to do the things that we are doing and how are we going to behave in those professions. Remember, despite all our technical abilities, we interact with people, and it is these people who will describe us who we are. So, making an ethical progress, sexuality and marriage, war and capital punishment, wealth and poverty. Of course, by the time we reach at that end, we'll be in a position to find our levels very distinct. Now, the methodology of teaching is, of course, the lecture method. We also have one-on-one micro teaching. We will have a tutorial. Uh, we will also have team teaching depending on how the time will allow. And I also encourage you to do personal research. And of course, just like you know ethics, we live and work ethics every day. Whatever we do is more or less ethics. So those examples will be very welcome, and putting them in the perspectives is very important. Now, the lecture that will be attending, I will be the main lecturer, and I will be taking you through this. I will also take you through the tutorial. So those two will help us appreciate much more. In the lecture, we will do more of what I'm doing, sharing information with you. And in the tutorial, it is now us, you and me, bringing ideas together. Attendance, like it is when it comes to evaluation, attendance will take 10 marks. Participation, weekly assignments will take 20 marks. And 10 marks for ethical analysis of papers, because I will ask you to look for papers. And you know, there are so many ethical issues around us. So I will ask you to do a number of analyses and bring out ethical issues, and that also goes for 10 marks. We will have a test depending on how much time we have, but of course, that is part of assessment, and that brings the marks to 50. Then the end of semester, which brings up the summation, 50 marks. So I think that gives you an idea of what we were intending to achieve, and therefore I welcome you to this class. Now I'm sure that we are in a position to appreciate the concepts, the thinkings, and the good practices of living. So, without wasting my time, I want to invite you to what exactly is ethics? What exactly is ethics? Now, as you could be aware, it cannot have one single definition. Ethics cannot have one single definition. We can say that ethics is a way of life. It's a way of life because, like I said at first, we live ethics. But putting it in the perspective of academics, can say that ethics comes from a Greek word ethos, meaning character of a person or group of persons. And this character can be associated with society. In its real sense, you find that ethics comes out to be a summation, total sum of all our behavior. In daily practice, it's difficult to say what ethics is. What is normally mentioned are morals, but we also look at what morals are. So, in a general definition, you can say ethics means a custom or a character, a principle that guides appropriate behavior. And when I talk about appropriate behavior, I'm not talking about just any other behavior, appropriate, accepted behavior in society. It encompasses the do's and don'ts of a society. Like we will see at a later stage, we realize that there are some behaviors that are considered unacceptable in society, and we call them unethical, unequal, and we will see some of the examples at a later stage. The second concept that I want to introduce to you in this lecture is the question of morality. Like ethics, morality is normally defined not from our perspective. Morality is defined from a Roman perspective, moth. And when you are talking about moth, morals, morality tends to be more of a custom, tends to be more of a custom. But it doesn't differ very much from ethics, custom of a community. Now, there are issues when it comes to differentiating between morality and ethics. In essence, morality can be put as a foot soldier of ethics because in society, like you can say, when it comes to behavior of individuals, morality, you don't question why I'm doing what I'm doing. For example, in African traditional society, among the many tribes, for example, the Baganda, you have seen women kneeling. And when they are kneeling, sometimes they are not forced and they don't even question why they should kneel. But by custom, you find them kneeling. To them, it's a sign of respect. It is unheard of unless a man is forced to kneel. For example, among the Bagisu, a man does not kneel for a certain man. So when we look at kneeling per se, it's a custom of the people. And that custom is aggregated into what we are calling a moral behavior. With ethics, ethics asks a question, why am I kneeling? Morality does not ask a question because morality is about custom. Ethics is logical. Ethics is logical. So the difference is, whereas morality is customary, ethics is logical, but in its practical sense, they are very much interrelated. Now, when we come to ethics and morality, we don't move far away from what we are calling values. Because, like I said, ethics is a summation, and the foot soldier, the practical ability of ethics is the morals, but also the practical ability of morality are the values. I have not included it here, but you need to think about what values are. A working definition that I can bring in here is that values are acceptable standards of beliefs and assumptions that guide appropriate conduct. And you find that each society or each individual has what we call values. You and me have what we call values. And if you don't stand for any, you fall for anything. Now, if you take, for example, an institution like Indiana Christian University, much as it has the vision, the mission, you find that it has what it stands for. And what it stands for is what we are calling the values. And when they're judging you or they're asking you to be distinct, they ask you to be distinct based on their values. So I would also want ask you to interest yourself to at least list five values that you stand for, and how practical are these values. I can give you an example. Some of the values that I stand for is honesty, integrity, hard work. I don't like people who are not hardworking. Why? Because they make life a little bit very difficult. So when you are hardworking, I consider you an ethical person. So I want to ask you to list at least five, challenge yourself and list five values that you stand for, and at least put a practical bit of it, practical face to it, so that by the end of this uh, course, you will go back and look and ask, I committed myself to the value, these five values. How far have I gone with them? Having defined morality, values, we want to talk about the sources of morality. What are our sources of morality? Where does morality come from? One of the sources of morality is our religion, our religion, our divine revelation, the supreme being, source of our standards. God, for example, Africans, like Professor normally puts it, that Africans are notoriously religious. Our religion. Why am I doing what I'm doing? It's because of my religion. Number two is our society, where we live, the clan, the elders, the school. We are product of our surrounding. What we are is as a result of what our society is. The other one is human person, the people we interact with. Of course, people we interact with do not go very far away from our conscious. And all these influence the way we think, the way we act, and the way we behave generally. The way we behave generally. So when we look at those sources and how they influence our ways of life, we need to make a comparison. The internal sources and the external sources, how much of it that we are influenced by our surrounding, how much of it that we are influenced by things outside our surrounding. We need to appreciate also the practices that society says or does about us. Because those are incubation centers for our moral being. The incubation centers for our moral being. We should also recognize that failure to appreciate ethics leads to peer social disapproval. Because being part of a society and behaving differently from what society is expecting of us, we subject ourselves to social ridicule and we become social misfits in a different society. That affects the whole of our lives. For example, when you're a thief, many people would upright who think uprightly may not necessarily want to associate with thieves. And I don't think any of you would want to be called a thief. Unlike in some circumstances where stealing is celebrated, you find in the newspaper so and so as robbed millions and millions, and people are celebrating. It is not a norm that we should always acknowledge or want to associate with. So, having said that, I want us to look at the ethical challenges faced by professionals in Uganda today. Ethical challenges faced by professionals in Uganda today. What we would call unethical behavior. Remember, we talked about ethics and values. The values, I asked you to find a list of them and put them as part of the landmark for your study. But let's look at what we would consider unethical behavior. Things like corruption. And by now, you need to differentiate what corruption is from uh, any other unethical behavior, conflict between organization or goals and individual beliefs, lack of exposure, balancing between family demands and work. All these are challenges faced by professionals when it comes to ethics. I want to give you this pictorial message. Man easing himself on the roadside. Is it ethical or unethical? You see, domestic violence. And you see, domestic violence is not limited to men battering women. It also goes with women battering men, victims of war, victims of war. And these are all things that come within our society. And these are things that we find ourselves entangled in. So I want to invite you to check on the notes, the record, the notes that I have here, slides, but also check on the notes that we have in the platform. Thank you very much.